we're going to talk about stem changers. Those little devils always get in the way. Now, what we have to understand is there are three types of stem changers: E to IE, E to I, and O to UE. Now, the question is, how do you recognize whether a verb is going to be an E to IE, E to I, or O to UE? Or let alone if it's even a stem changer, huh? That's always the question. Well, you don't know. You have to memorize them. But typically what you will find is if you look in the dictionary, you will find that there's the word, whatever the word is, and then in parentheses it will tell you what if it is a stem changer. It will say one of these up here. Okay? So then you just know, okay, oh yeah, this is a stem changer. So anytime I stem change it or I conjugate it in the present tense, it's going to be a stem changer. Okay? So what does it mean to be a stem changer? Okay. It's when we are looking at a verb, for example, if we looked at vivir, okay, now this is not a stem changer, it's just used as an example. We're talking about this part of the verb. That is the stem or the root, because we have a little change that happens to it. Stem changer. So let's go ahead and take a look at a few, okay? Three types of stem changers. Now, these are typical verbs. They're very common. So what we're going to say is these are the ones that are these are some of the most common verbs that are used in Spanish that you'll have the most encounter with. And so these are ones that are definitely stem changers. The only way you can know that they're stem changers is because you have to memorize them. Okay, so for the E to IE, here's our list. We have perder, which means to lose, tener, which means to have, venir, which means to come, cerrar means to close, entender means to understand, preferir means to prefer, comenzar means to start or to begin, and empezar means to start or to begin. Now these two, just a little side note, a little side lesson on that, both of those are exactly the same. You can use them interchangeably. Just like we use start or begin to substitute each other, we can do the same thing with comenzar and empezar. Pensar, down here, it means to think or to plan. Because when you're planning something, you're thinking about it, right? And then there's, of course, our most lovely word, querer, which means to want, okay? Or to desire, or in some cases, depending on how it's used, can mean to love, but typically, it's to want. Now, our most common stem changer from E to I are these four: servir, which means to serve, seguir, which means to follow or to continue, pedir, which means to ask or to order, and decir, which means to say or to tell. Okay? And so the best thing I can say, because we have two of them that start off as E's, but then they change into IE's or they change to I's, is that the best thing to do is memorize the shorter list and know that that list are stem changers from E to I. And the rest of them are E to IEs. It makes it a lot easier in my opinion. Okay, so now let's look at the next set. Now these ones are really easy to identify because all of them are O's, right? So here we go. Dormir, okay, it means to sleep. Poder means can or able to. Volver means to return. Encontrar means to find? Yes. Costar means to cost. Okay? Now, here's the other thing. Now that we know that all of these are stem changers, how do you know which one to stem change? For example, comenzar could have been, you could have said, hey, that belongs over here. But that's not the case. Okay? Because comenzar, if you look at it, if we look at it, you got to look at the very ending and you go back one vowel. And that one vowel is an E. So that's the one you stem change. Another good one is preferir. You look at that ending right there it is, and you go back one vowel. Okay, and that's the one that we're going to stem change. That E is going to change to an IE. So here's a very important question that we all need to know. When do they change? Isn't that an excellent question? So when do they change? Do they just change all the time in the conjugation chart? No, they do not. Okay, we say that they change within the boot. Okay, which means that they're going to change in the first person singular, second person singular, and third person. Okay, in all of the third person. So for example, if we looked at the verb pedir, which means to ask or to, what's the other one? To ask or to order. Okay, first person. Okay, we know it's going to end with an O, right? Now this I, E, is going to change to an I, so we put pido. Okay, there's our stem change. But if in the nosotros form, you notice how it doesn't fall within the boot? That means it doesn't stem change. The actual root stays the same. It becomes pedimos. And then over here in second person, what do we have? It's going to be pides. We have the normal as the ending, but the stem changes from E to I. In the vosotros form, again, because it does not fall within the boot, it's going to be pedis. Okay, it stays the same. Now for the third person, singular and plural, right here and right here, we find that it's going to have a stem change. So for example, this one would be pide and piden. Okay? One more for good measure. We're going to use a good verb like dormir. Whoops, I need some ink. Dormir, which means to sleep. Again, this one is going to have an O to UE stem change. So in the yo form, it's the normal O, but because it falls within the boot, okay, we're going to have a stem change. So it's going to be duermo. Duermo. And the nosotros form, because it's not within the boot, becomes dormimos. And because the tu form, it's an IR verb, it's going to have an IR verb ending, it's going to be duermes. Okay, we had that stem change right there. And then the vosotros form becomes dormís. Okay? And then down here, we go to duerme, and then duermen. Okay? I think you get the idea. You should go through and try those others, the other stem changing verbs, and practice those. So here's a little practice you can do, un poco de práctica. Okay, so go ahead and conjugate these according to the subject pronoun that's given, and we'll go over it in just a minute. Go ahead and push pause. All right, so here we go. Tu decir la verdad cada vez. So we know that this is a stem changer. It's going to change from an E to an I. Whoops. E to an I. It's our stem changer. So we're going to go and we're going to say dices because it falls within the boot. Okay, there it is. Now, yo pensar que ustedes son inteligentes. And so we would say this. That E, we know from our last list, goes from an E to an IE. Okay? Because it's in the yo form, it falls within the boot. So to help us remember, we can draw this little chart over here, and we draw the boot. So here it is. So therefore, it's going to be pienso que ustedes son inteligentes. Okay? Now let's take a look at el. El pedir una pizza del camarero. Now we know that one falls within the boot. It's the third person singular. So it becomes pide una pizza del camarero. Okay? Nosotros almorzar en la mañana. Nosotros does not fall within the boot. So therefore it becomes almorzamos. It's just a regular verb conjugation. Okay, en la mañana. Ustedes perder la mente en español. Okay, we know that this one is a stem changer from E to IE. So because it's ustedes, we know that it's going to fall within the boot. So it becomes pierden. Okay, good job. I hope you did well.